Imagine a mother with a hungry child and no means to feed that child. Let's say a baby that needs formula. This mother picks up the phone and calls a bunch of churches, some local churches and some mega churches. She asks for help in her time of need and says, I need formula for my baby. What do you think those churches would say? The mega churches and the small local churches. Comment down below! Don't actually comment down below, but this video is about mega churches and the sick state of what the is happening in the world currently a little bit more. Pastors of megachurches and these prosperity preachers have filled their pews and lined their pockets. They have fleets of airplanes, private jets. Also, they don't have to fly in hot tubes full of demons. All right, guys, they drive home in their Rolls Royces to their $1 million mansions.
Get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
Meanwhile, some people in America cannot afford to feed their kids, let alone themselves. There are a ton of people who are living like rock stars while raking in immense amounts of completely tax-exempt wealth, all the while being the most hypocritical examples of human beings to exist currently in the modern era. The institution of man can never not be corrupted. It's just the way that it goes. And for all their opulence and pouring tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, into extravagant Christmas Eve services, buying up stadiums so they can make even more money, or slowly taking over shopping malls, surely these organizations and people make time to set aside funds for those in need. Of course, they have to. Right? That's the whole thing. That's like the whole idea, I believe. I didn't grow up in a church, so I don't know. So why are we talking about this today? There's been plenty of videos on megachurch pastors, but recently a TikTok series has been blowing up, which is a series that tests the charitable work of religious institutions like megachurches. And it's unbelievable, dude. It's impossible to ignore. Nicole Monroe, a veteran and drug addiction counselor, has been calling religious ministries from varying religions with a simple request. Will they help provide baby formula for a hungry infant? The results of this test have created quite a chasm between the religious rhetoric that is preached within the walls of these institutions and the reality that extends far beyond one simple viral TikTok series.
So I'm calling your church to test to see if they would help feed a starving baby. And right now I'm calling Cathedral of the Rockies in Boise, Idaho. So let's see if they would help feed a starving baby.
Of 42 churches, mosques, and temples contacted, only 9 offered immediate help. That's a 21% success rate, or 1 in 5. Unsurprisingly, some of the largest churches said that approval could take weeks, while a smaller church might offer assistance immediately, which is like, you know, the whole idea of going to your neighbor for sugar or whatever. And this very public test on TikTok is just more evidence of the systematic corruption and contradiction inside houses of worship, regardless of religion, that many have begun to perceive over the last 20, 30 years, whatever. It's been around for quite a long time. And now American megachurches are accumulating staggering amounts of wealth with $100 million construction projects, once again, private jets, and pastor salaries in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, while only allocating 1 to 3% of their budget to actual charity, which is, I would say, completely unacceptable. I mean, we did a video, a rabbit hole, on the Church of Latter-day Saints, aka Mormons, and they do way more charitable work than that. Just saying. Same with Catholics. I know a lot of Protestants hate Catholics, all right, guys? Because they're weird. And they've got the Vatican. They've got a crystal skull, an alien skull in there, and that's really odd. But hey, man, it's the most charitable organization that's ever existed in history. So, not that one is necessarily better than the other. They're all institutions run by people. People can be evil. For example, Donald Trump's previous spiritual advisor being indicted for child sex crimes. You know, that's the spiritual advisor of the United States of America. Did a bunch of child sex crimes in the 1980s. So this guy right here, this is his full name. This is where he lives as well, just, you know, for public information. Since he's a sex offender, you have to know that. You have to like be able to tell that stuff. You know, for safety and all that. So we have institutions preaching the teachings of a man who came from nothing, born in a manger, and commanded his followers to sell your possessions and give to the poor, and to not exalt yourself at a gathering and invite people of the streets to fill your parties. And somehow 2,000 years later, we have corporate empires making somehow money off of that for some kind of transaction of divine favor. I don't know, dude. This doesn't make any sense at all, not even a little bit. Take Matthew 19:21. Jesus answered, "If you want to be perfect, go sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me." Luke 12:33. Sell your possessions and give to the poor. Provide purses for yourselves that will not wear out, a treasure in heaven that will never fail, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. Or Acts 2:44 through 45. All the believers were together and have everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. This is a really good example of what I'm going through and have been going through over the last couple of years. I did not grow up in a Christian household, okay? My parents are non-religious people. And I, myself, like to read some philosophers and have had a lot of anxiety in my life. And one of the philosophers I was drawn to over the last few years is Søren Kierkegaard, who is a very famous Christian philosopher who wrote a ton about the concept of the leap of faith. And I found that that was incredibly helpful to myself, not necessarily to believe in God and become part of an institution or any of these things, but to just have faith beyond what you know in your mind. And that's what's brought me down this route of believing. I apologize for any vitriol, by the way. I do not like the government. I like to talk shit about the government. And to me, this is just an extension of the government. It's the same level of corruption, the same just, you know, you take this beautiful ideal and this ability for people to work together and work in unity, and then you have people bastardizing it and ruining it and it over, and then there's nothing anybody can do about it. In spite of my vitriol towards American prosperity gospel, it is no longer just restricted to the American empire. It has been exported globally. There are megachurches everywhere that have been created that dwarf the American counterparts. Take, for example, the $300 million replica of the original Temple of Solomon that was constructed with 10,000 seats in Sao Paulo, Brazil for $300 million. I said that twice. That's a lot of money. In South Korea, the world's largest megachurch is the Yoido Full Gospel Church. It has multiple campuses, with its main campus alone being 12,000 seats. The church sees anywhere from 150,000 to 200,000 attendees across all locations in 7 Sunday services, and an estimated total of 580,000 members back in 2023. Now, to be fair, South Korean megachurch with 580,000 members, I don't know if it has the same level of insanity that what's happening here in America. It could be a genuinely beautiful institution. I don't really know, where everybody goes and worships and people actually live the way that they're espousing. But who knows? I don't speak Korean. If you're Korean and you know more, comment down below. Regardless, tax-exempt religious organizations wield an enormous amount of spiritual and now, in the modern times, financial influence globally. Some of these institutions have chosen to prioritize wealth accumulation above all else, choosing spectacle over service and self-enrichment over the betterment of community, which goes explicitly against the teachings that they claim to follow. People say there's no contradictions in the Bible. There are definitely lots of contradictions in the Bible, but this one is a very obvious contradiction. The works of man are so dumb. It's insane, bro. I just feel bad for a lot of these people, man. Getting lied to. Have you ever seen Righteous Gemstones?
Good afternoon, Jesus. Thank you for letting me be born into this world as a gemstone.
It's pretty realistic. These hypocritical elements within the church are what Kelly Monroe discovered upon beginning her TikTok series. Her strategy was to call churches to try and speak with someone, and she'd claimed to be a local desperate mother of a 2-month-old baby that hadn't eaten because she'd run out of formula.
Hey, I was wanting to see if y'all could help with a small can of baby formula. I have a 2-month-old and she's been out since last night, so she's gone all night and all day without anything to eat.
We don't have any formula around, darling. I'm sorry.
And it's a pretty modest request. A single small can worth $15, $20. If you're a church that seeks to help your community, it should be something that's a no-brainer, very easy to empathize with. And of course, you'll assist a hungry baby.
Could that be something you all could get and I could just pick it up?
No, we can't right now. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Once again, only 21% of the institutions called offered immediate help. Heritage Hope Church of God, which is a small Kentucky congregation, was among the few that stood out. The pastor of the church, Johnny Dunbar, is a 69-year-old great-grandfather, and he did not hesitate. In fact, he said he'd go himself if he needed to and deliver it personally.
I mean, if y'all could just get the formula, I could pick it up or have somebody come get it.
We could can do this. I'll just see. Tell me what it is it's called in case I have to go get it, because I'm a great grandpa. I'm not used to picking up the phone. Okay.
And to be fair, this is the experience that I've had with churches growing up in Appalachia. No mega churches, obviously, but every person that I've met in small churches, Methodist, Baptist, whatever the denominations are, everybody was really nice. The Islamic Center of Charlotte in North Carolina similarly did not hesitate. They immediately said, we can help, and asked what kind of formula was needed. No question.
We can, ma'am. Where do you live? Do you live in Charlotte?
Yes, I'm like 10 minutes from you all.
Okay. And what kind of formula do you need?
It's the Good Start.
Yeah, that's fine, ma'am. If you come over here, we'll help you.
They didn't ask any questions. They didn't say, are you Muslim? Or do you come here? Or do you live in Charlotte? They just offered help. A Buddhist temple in Chapel Hill, North Carolina would also help, and a Catholic church in Columbia, South Carolina had a woman offer $10 from her own pocket to help feed a hungry baby.
Just come. If they don't have baby food, I'll give you $10 from my pocket, and you'll buy some can.
Okay, that's so sweet.
So not even the church organization, but rather a member of the church, which as far as I'm concerned, I think that is kind of what the church is, right? It's people, I think, not the building. Or maybe it is. I don't know, guys. Me no lots. These instant yeses come from institutions with relatively small congregations and small amounts of followers. And if they can do it, surely the mega churches can. They actually have infrastructure for this type of thing, or at least you'd think they would. The pattern among wealthy megachurches, though, told a completely different story. Take Lakewood Church, for example. Joel Osteen's Houston megachurch. It has $59 million in assets and a $90 million annual budget. And when Nikali called this church, they directed her to apply for their benevolence ministry.
We do have a benevolence ministry. I can take down your information and put in a request for you.
And this was a process that could take at minimum a couple of days and at the most a few weeks, because it's a process. So if this really were a desperate mother of a starving child, that is far too long to wait for help. The baby would die for sure. And that's obviously assuming your benevolence application is approved, okay? HAL 9000? God is AI. God is AI. The clankers are coming. The clankers are coming. On their website, they'll provide you with a list of local places that can help, but when someone calls to seek help directly, it's sort of a roundabout way of saying no, or a roundabout way of just making it difficult, the bureaucracy to just kind of, like maybe go to the other church down the street, the small one with like 70 old people that just show up every Sunday because they believe in something similar and they all love each other and take care of each other and so on and so forth. You're probably better off just going there, knocking on the door of a little tiny church than trying to apply for the benevolence ministry. What the It's a good name for a metal band though, to be honest. Benevolence ministry. Now take the First Baptist Church of Dallas, Texas, an institution with 13,000 members, which opened a new $130 million state-of-the-art facility in 2013 that's been called the largest Protestant church building project in modern history. They said they had no programs to help. They only have 13,000 members and $130 million building. How do you get $130 million from 13,000 people? How do you do that? How's that work? Interesting. Everyone would have to give them $10,000 for, I think that's right. Yeah, $10,000 to get $130 million, at least. What? But either way, they had no programs to help. Maybe that's because they're too busy trying to hoard $95 million by the end of 2026 to rebuild their sanctuary and enhance the church campus. Bro, you just built $130 million worth of stuff, construction. It was like a decade ago. Now you need $100 million more because it's old and beige is out. That's $10 million a year that they're reserving for renovations and construction. That could just be going to, helping people or whatever you're supposed to do. It seems like more of that. It's like whatever we're supposed to do. I don't even know, dude. As long as we look like we're helping people, that's what really matters. You could buy 500,000 babies, $20 of formula a year with $10 million, approximately. In this economy? Yeah. Yeah, in this economy. Yeah, actually. You could. It's $20. The 39th church that Nikali called was Dream City Church in Phoenix, Arizona. And this is the church that Charlie Kirk attended and was a ministry partner.
Let me connect you with our care pastor. She handles all of the connections and our resources that we're able to give out.
Thank you.
Ultimately, Nikali was sent to voicemail when trying to pursue direct assistance from the church. So
the person you are trying to reach is currently unavailable.
And some of the top comments on this video point out the hypocrisy of the church, since on November 5th, 2 days before Nikali posted this video, they posted a video to Instagram saying that socialism is bad because it's not the job of the government to help poor people. And that's the old church and state thing. Once again, you know, the commentary from the church on, I mean, if you read the Bible, I feel like that's all it's about, really. If you kind of, I don't know what Bible I've been reading, but I feel like it's nothing like what, it just seems like nothing like what the other people's Bibles say. I think mine's different or something. So yeah, not a lot of good looks there. Don't practice what you preach or whatever the sure, I guess, you know, I'm not so sure the government would do that good of a job with socialism either. But like the church should be helping people for sure. Germantown Baptist Church in Germantown, Tennessee was called, but unfortunately their benevolence program is for their members only.
We are not. We have a benevolence program, but it is for our members.
Pay to win, dude. Pay to survive. With the church. This was a reason given by several churches that denied help. You have to be a member of the church to get help from the church. You have to pay to win. Yes, I remember that quote from the Bible where Jesus would help people, but first he would ask, wait, before I heal you, are you Jewish? Hold on a second. Are you a Jewish person? Nikali's experiment is a great idea, and it went viral within 2 weeks. The series began on Halloween, and the 42nd and final video was uploaded on November 8th. That is 1 week and 2 days later. In that time, she went from 300 followers to now having over 500,000. And the public reaction has been both emotional and financial. Those who do help are receiving thousands of dollars in donations from people who want their money to go to somewhere they know will actually use it to help people. Because most Christians, like, this isn't really like an anti-Christian thing. Most Christians that I know, well, all of them actually, I know for a fact if I called them, and I don't know that many people, to be fair, but if I called them and I needed help, or if I knew somebody that needed help or whatever, they would just 100% there, because they're people. They're normal people. They're not like freaks. They're not sycophants. Just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you can't be a sycophant. And I feel like a lot of Christians they know that. So this is not even like a anti, you know? It's kind of weird, dude. Somerset Church, where Johnny Dunbar, the great-grandfather who offered to help Nikali, is the pastor, spoke with the local news saying they'd received substantial donations and that the money will only be used to help others, which is beautiful.
And now they're reaching out to him, offering his little congregation of about 100 money to help their various ministries.
It's blown me away. I wasn't just putting in time. I'm loving this people. I prayed for years, God, let our little old church touch the world. God sent a little baby to rescue us. He didn't send a mighty warrior. He sent a little baby to rescue us.
Thomas Burke, a pastor at one of the churches that failed the test, responded in a bathrobe, saying that churches aren't obligated to help.
Churches, they are not obligated. We hope that they're going to be able to be philanthropic and donate into their community.
He also outlines how churches are scammed all the time by people doing the exact same thing.
Because what scammers do is they go through the directory of churches, they go through online directories, and they email and they scam all members of churches, and they say, can you send me a Visa gift card? Can you send me this gift card?
Hence the benevolent program that you got to do we got to run a background check on you. We got to take 2 minutes. All right, dude, come on now. You're going to scam us, all right? Poor people, they scam us. But if we circle back to Pastor Johnny Dunbar and his statement with the local news, he even said, I've said no 1,000 times. I've been scammed. I've been told every story in the world.
I said no 1,000 times. I've been scammed. I mean, I've been told every story in the world. Why should it be a big thing that we done the right thing?
But he still said yes to Nikali when she asked him for help. So Burke's explanation is weak no matter how comfortable that bathrobe may be. This experiment went incredibly viral, and I feel like the timing of the experiment matters in a pretty profound way. Monroe's test occurred during the government shutdown when 42 million Americans receiving SNAP benefits were affected. And this time was a time in which people were making the argument that churches should replace government safety nets, and so Nikali tested that with a concrete emergency. Feed a hungry baby. Most failed. Things are bleak. All right, guys, it's up. Now let's talk about Jessica Siegel, a marketing expert who works with faith-based nonprofits. She advocates for churches during this time, saying that these faith-based institutions were scrambling to figure out how to rapidly expand their programs and raise more funds to meet a growing need. But seemed like too tall an order. To be clear, there's a definite role that these places play in the safety net for at-risk families and individuals. After all, historically, they were the original safety net because things like feeding the hungry, clothing the poor, and taking in the orphan are all directly in the liturgy of the major religious traditions. It's in their DNA. What's changing now is how the funds are gathered, dispersed, and sustained. I think them big old churches need to start taking Bitcoin. All right, guys, that shit's gonna unravel. You know, Jeffrey Epstein started Bitcoin. You know that? I heard that somewhere. I think I might have just made it up, unfortunately. These are dark times. Clankers are everywhere. Jeffrey Epstein's... Everybody's on that list. In Jessica Siegel's eyes, it's not a matter of not wanting to help, but rather a matter of not being able to meet every need, even if they want to. Most congregations simply don't have the infrastructure or resources to meet every need that comes their way. Siegel's explanation is one that I'd definitely be willing to accept in certain situations, but I don't think it can be a blanket excuse for every church that refused to help in the test conducted by Nikali Monroe. After all, some of the reasons given were that you must be a member of the church to become a beneficiary of their benevolence programs. In order to be helped, in order to be healed, in order to be saved, you have to be a member. If a real starving family or a mother of a starving baby were to reach out to a church with a request for aid and receive this answer, not a test as put forward by Nikali, but rather a real situation, then they would have blood on their hands, in my opinion. It is easy to view that as holding life-saving food for ransom. All you have to do is convert and join the church, or they can just outright deny to help someone in need. And I don't know how many people scam. The dude in the bathrobe seemed to think that it was really common. People are just calling churches to scam churches all the time. But people love scamming churches, dude. It's like kind of the thing poor people do. They love scamming churches. What? You're a fool, you goofy bathrobe fuck. Even Siegel, who's advocating for the good work these religious organizations do, doesn't believe they are the end-all, be-all solution. She said, ultimately, in today's world, I believe meeting community needs really requires strong collaborations between faith institutions, nonprofits, and public systems. So there really isn't a great answer out there, according to her, which I would agree. I don't know anything at all. But many churches, including those Nikali called, work with food pantries and nonprofits that feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, and clothe the needy in their communities by providing funds. But still, even those nonprofits and shelters don't have unlimited resources or space for everyone who might need such a thing. When those resources become unavailable, people in need may see churches and religious temples as the next best option, leading them to call for help. Because in all honesty, if you read the book, it seems like that's where you should go for help. Really does. It really genuinely does. That's what I'm getting from it. And I'm new to it. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I haven't gotten to greed 9/11. Okay, guys? I haven't gotten that far yet. Okay? And I don't remember that being in the first 5 books. So yeah, and when it looks like these places won't even help feed a starving baby, it paints a very grim and uncaring picture. Appalachian Pawpaw Johnny Dunbar said it best when he and Nikali sat together for a conversation.
God has given us a moment in time, an opportunity, and this may be the last opportunity to get it right. I think it's a second change. But if we lose this one, the world doesn't trust the church. I'm gonna be honest, they don't trust us. They think we're irrelevant. They really don't think we care.
And with this test, the no's outweighing the yeses by such a degree seemed to confirm people's distrust, and some of the churches realized how bad it made them look. And whether motivated by a need to manage a PR crisis or by genuine regret, some even apologized, which is incredible because that's really what it's you have to be able to Find out where there are holes. Are people just not even calling anymore? Do they literally not have the infrastructure set up at all because it's so uncommon? There's a reality in which, of course, maybe they're not evil, okay? But is it a problem? Yes, objectively, it is definitely a problem. They need help, absolutely. Pastor Jared Neiman of the Abundant Church in El Paso told his congregation, "We did not handle it properly. I've been mortified by it, embarrassed by it. We did offer food, but we didn't offer it with the urgency the situation requires. We made a mistake. I apologize." Which is very commendable, and I wouldn't be surprised if that church became a genuine force for good for the local community from now on because of Nikali's little fun TikTok experiment. I wouldn't be surprised. Sometimes all it takes is one person to go in there and flip a table and say, "You're all den of thieves," you know? All it takes is one fella or girl or whatever. A spokesperson from Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church called it an error and claimed they support 21 crisis pregnancy centers with formula and 16 food pantries. However, they don't stock it directly for immediate distribution. So that's not bad, Joel. It's an error. He's handsome. He's a good-looking fella. I'll give him that. He looks like a good-looking guy. He's a handsome dude, and I can't get over how handsome he is. But when you get over how handsome he is and you look at the darkness behind it, pretty scary. Okay, guys? He plasters that face on with the money of his congregation. Some other institutions did not respond with such grace. Matt Brown, the pastor at Germantown Baptist Church, responded on the church's Facebook page saying,
"Well, in the last week, our church, along with more than 40 other churches around the country, have been part of a social media campaign that's misleading and has painted an incomplete picture of our approach to caring for the real needs of people. These videos and comments included false attacks on our ministry, our members, and many of our staff. The narrative and disgusting remarks aimed at us and the hateful messages aimed at my own family have been quite extensive. Now, the opportunity to learn how to better organize our ministry efforts and to serve our community and to communicate our desires to do so is not lost on us in this moment. And for that, we are extremely grateful."
So whether or not one would take that as a suitable response, acknowledging that they recognize their opportunity to optimize their community outreach, while also sharing that the hateful rhetoric is affecting many who played no role in the no response from GBC, that is a statement that's just prepared for social media release. It seems kind of, I don't know, like not a great one. It's misleading and bullshit. All right, guys, it's misleading and bullshit. Sure, we didn't help, but like, we really wanted to and stuff. And now we're getting attacked. Oh, isn't that like the whole thing? You bear the cross. Isn't that like the whole thing? You have to be willing to take it, dude. Isn't that the whole thing? I swear to God, I think my Bible's different than these other people's. What the It's my Bible. It's Goosebumps, number 3, trapped in Batwing Hall. Anyways, that was Matt Brown's social media response, but he addressed the controversy during a church service 5 days before this, which was filmed on someone's phone, and that response was quite a bit nastier. He said,
"The video that has celebrated what is believed to be unrighteous behavior on our part is itself an unrighteous, fake attempt to set a trap for us and derail the ministry of GBC and steal our joy and steal our confidence as the people of God. The attempt to disparage GBC is neither light nor truth. The writer of Proverbs is known to personify wisdom as a person, but he also personifies folly. He says in chapter 9, verse 13, the woman folly is loud. She is seductive and knows nothing."
Which is not a great way, in my opinion, to describe the woman who called you just to see if you'd try and provide baby formula to a starving baby. She didn't make the church say no. Isn't that what it's all about, is the tests? So, what a terrible thing to say. And he's doing this. She didn't write the church policy saying the benevolence program is for members only. That's just on the church. And it doesn't take a genius to see that that is very limiting and kind of an exclusionary thing when it's supposed to be for everybody. I thought, at least. Once again, I could be reading a different Bible. Now, Pastor Brown's response is kinder than the response of Bishop Raymond Johnson of Living Faith Christian Church in Baton Rouge, who called Monroe a witch who did a dirty deed and even threatened she would be dealt with swiftly.
How you gonna do your little dirty deed and you know, it's just the spirit of a witch. It's a witch. You will be dealt with very, very swiftly.
Really wild thing to say, but Anyways, I know that so far this has largely covered some glorified internet drama, and the goal of this video isn't to call attention to every church that said no or every church that said yes. That is simply the situation that has brought megachurches to mind again, because with their massive budgets, where is the money going if not to the people who need it most? Where does that money go? Some abuses are small scale, just stingy benevolence funds, things like not helping starving babies, etc. But others involve spending that redefines church as a source of entertainment rather than religious guidance and charity, an industry of spectacle. Big church means big money, and once you taste big money, you don't want to give that up. And if you want to keep butts and seats and cold, hard cash in your offering tray, you need to dazzle the congregation. You need to do crazy things. All right, guys, it's all about clickbait. YouTube viewership, Mr. Beastification of church, literally. Now, a church that wasn't called by Nicali in these experiments, but does embody the spectacle spending, as we've just decided to name it, is the James River Church in Springfield, Missouri. James River approaches worship in a way that prioritizes theatrical productions and masculine-themed entertainment. It is Righteous Gemstones. Have you seen Righteous Gemstones? It's a great show. It's hilarious.
Your whole ministry is set up to serve the gemstones. You should be ashamed of yourself. Well, I ain't. Praise be to He.
The James River Annual Men's Conference encapsulates the issue perfectly. For $119 per ticket, you can watch as rock music plays to the scene of a monster truck, or even a tank driving over cars while pyrotechnics blast fire into the air.
Oh my God, I love that! And yes, my IQ is too low to get into the military.
It's a conference that exists to empower and motivate men to live out God's view of manhood and be the best husbands, fathers, and leaders God has called them to be. That is an actual quote. For the low, low price of a couple pieces of paper with presidential faces on it, you can see masculinity in action with strongman shows, BMX, motocross, dunk contests, boxing, bull riding, and MMA, American Ninja Warrior, and more. Now, I get it. All right, guys, I get it. There is definitely a place for masculinity and all this stuff, and it's certainly, I love masculinity. I'm trying to be a very masculine man. I try to work out. I shoot things and stuff, and I try to be there for people and all this stuff, and work hard and all that. But I don't know if that's really what the Bible's. I don't know. Once again, I think we have different Bibles. Shit. I feel like an idiot. Like it's my first day of school and I'm an outsider. The 2025 conference anticipated people from over 34 states and 34 countries to be in attendance. But it's only men, okay? No women allowed. These are men-only events which the church promotes as helping men connect and grow in strength in Christ through world-class athletic entertainment, which is genuinely hilarious. This is what a waste of money though. I mean, I get it. It's kind of cool if you want to do it. Sure, why not? Volunteer only, but I just don't spend the church money on it. I don't know. Maybe spend that on people in need and stuff. I don't know. It seems kind of dumb. The conference has been subject, as you can imagine, to controversy. Okay, guys, online people regularly criticize the event. Responses from Christians to the 2023 conference didn't hold back. He said, "This is biblical masculinity? No, this is what boys who grew up without fathers think masculinity is. There is nothing manly in all these charades. No wonder we are in the condition we are as a society," which I totally agree with that. It's pretty not masculine, really. That stuff's not super masculine. I could get maybe maybe the American Ninja Warrior, really exerting yourself, discipline and stuff, but maybe I don't know. Another comment reads, "I'm from Springfield and attended James River briefly back in the day and have a close childhood friend who is a member of their ministry staff. It's not some place I'd send children to learn about how to be great men or women. I don't have the same level of disdain for the place most others around here do, but I certainly can see the silliness of it all. They aren't hiding it. This wasn't a one-off. They are in the business of mass appeal, not preaching Christianity in any deep way," which is blasphemous, heretical, and so on. Which I agree with this guy. This is a more nuanced take. Even Christian commentators are critical of it. Michael Knowles reacted to a clip of the conference and said that,
"What seems unfortunate about this event to me is that the appeal of it is entertainment. We need sobriety, I think, is what we need. We need study is what we need. We need seriousness."
His description reads, "I think it looks kind of fun, but it's not exactly what men need right now. Men need formality," which I don't even know if that's true, but it seems like that may be more true. Be more formal, maybe. I don't know. or formal, I'm not sure. It's definitely something that people on all sides can find something to be critical about within this thing. It doesn't seem like a good thing to do. I can't help but wonder if it's really the best use of the resources of the church, though. That's my big thing. It's the congregation's donations and tithes are for BMX. Are you kidding me? It's idiocracy is what it is. It really is. It just boils down to genuine idiocracy, man. It's fucking crazy. The physical infrastructure alone of America's megachurches operates at a scale that rivals that of Fortune 500 companies. We take another look at the Lakewood Church, Joel Osteen's. They spent $119 million to acquire and renovate Houston's former Compaq Center, the NBA arena where the Rockets once played. The facility seats 16,800 people and required a $100 million Bank of America loan that took 20 years to repay. That's an average of $5 million per year being set aside just to pay off the debt they took on to give themselves a stadium to pray. And remember, it's reported in 2017 they gave $1.2 million to charitable causes and outreach. And that same year, they spent 10 times that on fundraising alone. So spending more money on raising funds than using those funds for actual mission work is really, really insane. And people, a lot of Christians are very critical of which Catholics obviously are Christian, but allegedly. I'm just kidding. They are, definitely. But I know so many Protestants who hate Catholics and Orthodox and hate Mormons of all. And if you look at the organization and the actual charity, it's a very bleak picture. It's a lot of cringe out there, guys. Even Scientology does a lot of, I mean, they're all corrupt. They're institutions of man. Of course they're corrupt. And they're all goofy as shit. 2017, by the way, that is also the year where Lakewood and Joel Osteen faced severe backlash over allegations that they kept the church doors closed during Hurricane Harvey that affected tens of thousands of people, to which they responded that the church had severe flooding. But don't worry, guys. At the start, Joel Osteen tweeted that he and his wife were praying for those affected and invited citizens of Twitter to join them in prayer. Big ups to prayer. Meanwhile, while they were claiming their 606,000 square foot facility was inaccessible due to flooding, people on social media had posted pictures and videos showing that the location appeared to be pretty clear of flooding. Clear enough to where people could go in there if they needed it, because they did. They eventually opened it to evacuees, but the amount of time that passed before this development had already done enough damage. And then, of course, in 2021, when Hurricane Ida was displacing people in New Orleans, Louisiana, Osteen was sure to post a video to Twitter welcoming anyone who could make their way there. Of course, he learned his lesson. And Lakewood and Osteen are very easy to dog on because they're one of the largest in the US, but there are so many mega churches in America that you don't have to look far to find controversy. One positive thing about Lakewood that we should definitely grant is that their finances are public. James River, the incredible entertainment venue, underwent renovations back in April 2024. Over 61,000 square feet of property were to be remodeled, with 26,000 square feet of space being added to the building so that the youth ministry could get its own auditorium in the main building, as well as other departments and areas like a gymnasium. The estimated cost for this project was not disclosed, but you can see pictures of the completed upgrades on the website of the contractor which did the construction, and it does not look very cheap. It looks fairly expensive. So there's tons of other megachurches. To be considered a megachurch, a weekly attendance of 2,000 people is the minimum. That doesn't sound like a whole lot, and when you think of a megachurch, you probably think of a Lakewoods or that evil guy up there in Eagle Mountain Lake. What's that guy? Kenneth Copeland. With the scary mask.
Do you really believe that human beings are demons?
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
That guy freaks me the out. I feel like he's evil. I would bet money on that. And all the other prosperity gospel freaks. But it only takes 2,000 members in the congregation weekly. The number of megachurches in America has risen sharply. A cool little infographic from Church Tech Today back in 2013 outlined the rise from only 10 megachurches in 1970 to more than 1,600 in 2011. The Hartford Institute for Religion Research estimates that number is now closer to 1,800. Gateway Church, a megachurch in Southlake, Texas, invested a reported $86 million in the construction of its main campus and is also embroiled in a massive controversy. You see, the church, its leadership, and its founder, Robert Morris, were all facing lawsuits with massive implications. Back in 2021, a church member who donated substantial sums from 1993 to 2015, James Huntsman, sued the church for $5 million, alleging that the tithes collected by the church were used to build the City Mall Center, a shopping mall in Salt Lake City. He claimed that the church was dishonest about how it was allocating its funds. And by the way, there's a lot of that in the Church of Latter-day Saints. A lot of, in spite of all the charity stuff they do, the missions and everything, blah, 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 blah. This is like a big problem with all the different branches of church. Okay, guys? Maybe not so much with the Catholic Church nowadays, but back in the 50s and the 60s and shit, when it was just the mob, yeah, it was pretty bad. Anyways, this church fought back by essentially arguing that the First Amendment protected church activity and that it was free from state interference in matters of church government. So to them, courts couldn't resolve disagreements without posing a grave threat to the autonomy of a religious organization, which seems like a very convenient way around having any accountability, I guess. And believe it or not, this worked out for them quite well. Huntsman's lawsuit was ultimately dismissed earlier this year, but it did open a can of stinky hydatids, worms, disgusting freakazoids. In 2024, multiple class action lawsuits were filed against Gateway Church, with one alleging that the church leaders had lied for decades about using member tithing donations solely for charitable causes. And instead, they alleged that the cash was thrown into Ensign Peak Advisors, their investment firm, which, my lord, that is unbelievable. Where'd this money come from? You can't even get a mortgage with unseasoned funds that just haven't existed in the financial system for a long period of time, but you're allowed investment firms will take church money? Why would they do that? Why is that a thing? I don't know. Maybe that's why there's a lawsuit. Maybe. The other lawsuit claims that the church, which had reportedly promised that 15% of the money given to the church would be spent on missions, allocated less than $3 million annually for missions, instead of the over $15 million it should have spent if it kept that promise. We just didn't have enough missions to go on, guys. We're not SEAL Team 6. We're just a church. We're just a church. This isn't Red Cell. I'm not Richard Marchenko. All right, I didn't have a Bethesda video game called Rogue Warrior made after me. All right, I'm just a little tiny baby church that makes a lot of money. We don't know where to spend the money, so we give it to the investment firm, and then they make us really rich. And then we're all gonna go to hell. Aww. Founder and former head pastor Robert Morris has the head in which the people hypothetically want to see roll. Robert Morris faces his own legal battle, which has led to the church's image falling apart. Back in June 2024, he resigned as pastor following allegations of sexual abuse of a 12-year-old girl back in the 1980s. This is the guy that was the former spiritual advisor to the President of America. All right, guys, President of America. Okay. As a result of the allegations, the church was hit hard, and by November 2024, donations had fallen by up to 40%, and attendance had likewise fallen, as shared by Kenneth Fambra, one of the church elders, leading to staff cuts. Robert Morris victim Cindy and her father filed a lawsuit against Morris, his wife, and Gateway Church, alleging that they knew about Robert's crimes, hid it, and made millions of dollars from his moral failures and of the plaintiff, Cindy. The church claimed they knew about an extramarital affair Morris had committed, but not the age of the person the affair had taken place with. And since the church had successfully gotten the lawsuit from James Huntsman dismissed, they tried a similar tactic here, and they asked the case to be dismissed, claiming that once again the courts have no right to intervene in church matters. Bill Matea, Robert Morris' attorney, said the doctrine is all about protecting the First Amendment and that the courts and the government shouldn't get into the affairs of the church. So that's why I think fundamentally it's a major constitutional issue. I don't think that that's a major constitutional issue. I've read the Constitution. Sure, it does say that it's AI generated whenever I run it through this AI tool, okay, guys? But still, I think that they may have been onto something here about with the whole, separation of church and state thing, and that maybe criminal matters are not a matter of the church. The law is not a matter of the church. Church law, I don't know. Maybe I got a different constitution than them too. Probably. On October 2nd this year, Morris pled guilty to child sex abuse charges, but he thinks that he's the victim in some ways. Morris went after Gateway Church after leaving, claiming he was being denied his retirement benefits from a church?
In a demand for arbitration, 63-year-old Robert Morris claims Gateway elders made a verbal commitment to him that he would receive $800,000 a year until he reached the age of 70, and then $600,000 a year thereafter, with payments continuing to go to his wife Debbie after his death.
Are you kidding me, dude? He even threatened the board, saying that if he didn't start getting his money, he would be forced to make clear that he was transparent with the board about his earlier relationship with Miss Cindy. That is crazy. So the church leader, which had previously said they knew there was an affair and then didn't know about anything else, especially not the age of the mistress, seemed to change their story, and current church leaders then said that former church leaders were aware of details of Morris' abuse of Cindy. Under Morris' plea agreement, he received a 10-year suspended sentence where he'll serve the first 6 months in Osage County Jail. And after that, he'll spend the remaining 9.5 years of his sentence under probation and will register as a sex offender. Are you kidding me, dude? It's what? There's people who go to jail for nothing, and this guy's gonna be able to spend 9.5 years on probation? All he has to do is knock on people's doors and say, I'm a pedophile. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Are you kidding me? What a failure. What a failure of government and justice. So it is understandable that many people may be upset hearing that the man who abused a 12-year-old while in his 20s is only going to be behind bars for 6 months, and then also basically blackmail the church into giving him $800,000 a year. Somehow churches are giving people almost $1 million a year who aren't Jesus or whatever, prophets. I'm not sure what's going on. But in spite of what any of us might think, his victim, Cindy, has expressed that she believes justice was in fact served, that's the most important thing, obviously. After all of this, Gateway Church is facing significant public scrutiny, and while the class action regarding the church's failure to deliver on its promise of 15% of donations going to global missions is still ongoing, the Trinity Foundation warned that there is little hope of prosecuting church leaders for financial fraud, because it's just it's a First Amendment thing, all right? That's what the founding fathers intended. They didn't want there to be more capitalists. They weren't warning us about foreign influence. They didn't care about any of this stuff that's going on right now. They literally wrote the Constitution so people could exploit the church and make a lot of money off God. That was their intention, okay? They stated back on Halloween in 2024 that there's simply not enough precedent-setting court decisions criminalizing various forms of religious fraud, and they outline the reluctance shown by the DOJ and FBI in investigating church leaders, along with investigating pedophiles. They don't like investigating anybody who's evil and wrong. And it seems like not even themselves, but they cite televangelists often falsely promising supernatural blessings to donors that give money, and how these preachers are never charged with fraud for lying to their followers when those promises aren't actualized. My hope is that we see a bit of a change to that lack of court precedent, because in January of this year, the Justice Department did put out a press release announcing the indictment of Francier Obando Penilo, a former Tri-Cities pastor, for a multi-million-dollar crypto scam where he targeted members of his congregation and turned it into a pyramid scheme by convincing investors to recruit other investors. Oh my God. Yeah, beware of crypto, by the way. Crypto is full of scam, and we can absolutely trust the DOJ and the American government to crack down on those scams. And if you want a really reputable crypto to invest into, look up Trump coin or Melania coin. Those two are extremely reputable. Penilo was released while awaiting trial, but he was jailed after violating the terms of his release by reaching out to a victim of the fraud case, asking for a further $200,000 to hire a lawyer, which was viewed as witness tampering. His trial is in March of 2026, so we'll see. Maybe this will set a precedent for religious fraud, at least religious crypto fraud. There's another case that could also help shape court precedents, and it is another crypto scamming pastor, Eli and Caitlin Regalado. They went viral when Eli, the crypto pastor, diverted $1.3 million from investors in his index coin towards a home remodel the Lord told them to do, guys. Oh, that's the fourth of the trilemma. I didn't realize that. It's either Jesus is Lord, liar, or lunatic, or he's a general contractor, and he's going to tell me to build my house with people's money. All right. They targeted Christian communities in Denver and used the money to live a lavish life while skiing, with yacht trips, designer clothes. They even bought a Range Rover. The funds were marketed as low-risk, high-reward investments to its victims. How the are people still falling for that concept? I have no idea. It's just not a thing. It doesn't work like that. But Eli and Caitlin are facing 40 counts, and Eli has priors. He's previously served time car theft. Guy's a free piece of shit. So in a perfect world, we may see these false prophets jailed for stealing from their congregation, and this will set a precedent that can be used against other financial fraudsters and against further forms of dishonesty in institutions that lie to their followers and use the funds generated from donations for selfish desires. Or at least, be upfront about it. Just be like, we're a church. I'm very corrupt. This is not about, it's a cult, it's more of a cult. If you guys think I'm chill with it, donate to me. It doesn't go to the Lord, doesn't go to anything, it goes to me. But it's fun though. But it's kind of chill because I get to live a really good life and I'm going to make you guys feel better I'm going to be there for you and we're going to put on big shows and we're going to talk about conspiracies. I might start my own church. Might write my own Bible. The other one, the one I have apparently is not like anybody else's. And also it's hard to read, dude. It's hard to read. And those aren't even mega churches. Panilo's church, Ministerio Apostolico Profetico Tiempos de Poder. It's a Spanish language church in Pasco, Washington. And it was in a strip mall, and Eli Regalado's Victorious Grace Church was an online only church. There are multiple instances where the leaders of mega churches have gone to federal prison over fraud. So let's hope that continues. Never heard anybody with this name, so I apologize if I'm not saying it correctly, but because there's no way it's real. Kirby John Caldwell is known for being the senior pastor at Windsor Village United Methodist Church, which is an institution with 16,000 members in its congregation in the Houston area. This man also offered spiritual guidance to both George W. Bush as well as Barack Obama. Kirby John, kind of a legend. But in January 2021, Caldwell was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison for a scheme running from 2013 to 2014 in which he and another defendant sold worthless bonds from the Republic of China issued before 1949 for $3.5 million. They defrauded 29 investors who were not informed of the bond's lack of value outside of the memorabilia market, since the bonds aren't recognized by the current Chinese government. By this logic, my grandfather brought home some war trophies from World War II, and I'm a billionaire. Okay, guys? If the Fourth Reich ever comes back, I'll be rich. Caldwell used $900,000 he received to pay down various debts he was facing. Personal loans, mortgages, credit cards. Initially, Caldwell maintained his innocence, even addressing the case to his congregation by saying, "I didn't do it!" He said that with his attorney during an Easter service. He didn't actually say, "I didn't do it." But he did address the controversy. He apologized and paid full restitution, but the crime had been committed and he'd be going to prison. Requies a tu pace, dickweed. Somehow the church stood by Caldwell's side. He continued preaching, and when he eventually pled guilty and went to prison, his wife took over as the senior pastor. And when Kirby John got an early release, the church celebrated. The church's Facebook page went awry. The church's Facebook page posted a message from Kirby John sharing that he was home under confinement but would see them soon, which is, crazy. Kirby John maintains that he didn't knowingly defraud anybody, and he believed the bonds to be good and quite valuable, despite his history on Wall Street, and it seems that's enough for the church. And judging from interviews this year, he's back preaching, but one Sunday at a time. Okay, guys. So Kirby John's congregation seemed to forgive him. Let's take Bishop Lamore Whitehead, a pastor with over 1 million followers on Instagram who enjoys the finer things in life. He likes nice Louis Vuitton, Gucci, fancy suits, and he kind of looks like Riddler. He's pretty cool. He reminds me of Bob Dolomite. He likes nice decor, all white furniture. He's kind of got that sort of Trump thing going on. Grand piano, crystal chandelier, white gold podcast spaces, yet a Rolls Royce. Very Christian. This dope ass aesthetic has led to this motherfucker being dubbed the Bling Bishop, which is so awesome. Lamore was more than just worship and wealth, however. He also seemed to do good deeds. In 2022, it was claimed that he helped negotiate the surrender of an armed murderer who had killed an employee of Goldman Sachs in a subway attack. He was planning on hand-delivering the suspect to his pal, Mayor Eric Adams, with whom Lamar had a close relationship, considering him a mentor and a friend. He was living a high-profile life with influential friends and plenty of his own luxuries as well. But unfortunately, the way that the Bling Bishop was flaunting his lifestyle attracted unwanted attention, which was captured on live stream services from Whitehead's church. He was robbed at gunpoint while delivering a sermon to his congregation and to viewers of his live stream. It said the suspects got away with $1 million worth of jewelry taken from him and his wife, which is a lot of wealth for a servant of the Lord to be wearing during a sermon, but I guess it makes sense because he's the motherfucking bling bishop and shit. In another confrontation caught on live stream, our bling bishop grabbed a woman by the back of her hair and shoves her off screen after an argument with her. He claims that she was going for his wife and child, but she claims that that was not the case. And on the video, you can clearly see that she was the one that was assaulted. The bling bishop was not happy with the way that this situation was handled by law enforcement since he was also taken to the station. He complained that he was treated like a criminal.
I was treated like a criminal, so I went from the pulpit to the cell for no reason.
Get this. The man that wears $1 million of jewelry to preach a sermon happens to have a criminal past. Reporting from 2016 revealed that he had been previously charged with 10 counts of identity theft and using the names of victims in scams that raked in at least $2 million. He rode around in a stolen Land Rover wearing a pimp-style red and white waist-length mink jacket, and a search of his house found a stolen 9mm handgun and a bulletproof vest. Apparently, he claimed he was in the music industry, but that was also suspected to be a scam. He served a 5-year sentence before being released in 2013, and surely that would put this man on the path of righteousness, correct? He changed his ways behind bars. Christianity is all about grace and forgiveness and surrender. It's about weakness being a strength, perceived weakness being a strength, not objective weakness, of course. So surely the man had changed his ways. Well, we know that he went on to become the bling bishop and enjoyed the luxuries of a rich lifestyle, but where did those riches come from? Guys, turns out you can just kind of make stuff up. The bling bishop had used doctored bank statements to make it appear as though he had millions of dollars in the bank and hundreds of thousands of dollars in monthly revenue to apply for loans. He stole millions of dollars through this scheme, likely used to sustain his lavish lifestyle, and it wasn't just the loaners that he stole from. He convinced one of his own parishioners to invest her retirement savings of $90,000 with him, promising that he'd use the money to help buy her a home. And instead, what do you think he spent it on? Luxury goods, most likely. He also extorted a businessman for $5,000, then further trying to convince the same individual to lend him $500,000 and give him a stake in real estate transactions. And in exchange, the bling bishop promised he could get Mayor Eric Adams to take favorable actions in regard to the transactions, which is a promise that Whitehead knew he could not follow through on because that would be horrible corruption, and we know Eric Adams is not corrupt. Whitehead also lied to law enforcement when they executed a search warrant on his home, saying that he only had one cell phone when a second phone was found inside the house. He also reportedly continued his dishonesty when he lied to the court at his trial, which is perjury. So yeah, more convictions, more theories, more financial corruptions within megachurches, especially the prosperity preachers. They're just sociopaths. They're freakazoids. This shit has been happening for so long that the suspicions are warranted. Robert Tilton was a massive televangelist preacher back in the 1970s through the mid-1990s. His church, the Word of Faith Family Church in Dallas, Texas, had 8,000 members, which may be seen as quite humble in numbers now, but at the time, he was called the Pastor of America. He would purchase as many as 5,000 hours of airtime monthly for television, reaching all 235 markets, and the church grew to a staff of over 800 people, roughly one employee for every 10 members, though many of them were just hired to answer phones and to take names and addresses around the clock. These staff were essentially curating a mailing list of potential donors to reach out to. There were millions of potential donors, and oftentimes Tilton would read names of donators live, thanking them for contributions like a Twitch streamer.
Here's Sharon, $1,000. Here's a $500 from Dorothy. Thank you, Dorothy, in Jesus' name. You're helping me.
It's the original begathon.
Pay Jesus' bills first, and he'll pay your bills, Peter.
Very simple, very effective grift. Do you want Jesus to bless your life and your bank account? Then you need to prove that you deserve it. Give what little you have. It's only $5. And you'll receive abundance because you'll have Robert Tilton to tell the Lord to pay your mother bills. The Tilton requests weren't the typical tithings that you could expect to receive a request for when, sitting in on a congregation. Tilton called them vows. If you want your miracle, you need to make a vow of faith in the amount of $1,000 and mail it directly to this goober.
This is what God just spoke to me. He said, Bob, I have spoken to 25 people to vow $1,000. I'm going to give them the money, But I'm going to give them more than that. I'm going to give them the desire of their heart.
Or to the church that he controls the finances of. The vow request would sometimes even reach $10,000. And if you did that, he'd send you one of his tithes. So f***ing worth it. He may have received on some days as many as 10,000 letters a business day, amounting to up to 80 to even 100 million potentially annually being pulled in by his ministry. That is so crazy, because that's the 70s and the 90s, dude. That's a lot of money back then, bud. A lot of letters, letter after letter with $1,000. People sent these in because they were desperate for miracles. Not only that, but he seemed to perform miracles on television. Why not send your money to guarantee your miracle?
Working a supernatural miracle in the, praise God. Now there's the anointing flowing again. All the way. Jesus' name. Better? Better. About how much better? A lot better.
But then, of course, it all fell apart. Apparently, tons of the letters people were sending in to Robert Tilton and his church were just found in the trash behind a building that the church operated.
These are prayers that we found in the trash. Bundles, thousands of prayers. And of the people's sincere prayers that they sent in, they just took the money out and ran.
Not figurative tons, but 15 tons were found over the course of a month and a half by people keeping a close eye on the location once they discovered what was happening. 15 tons of letters with prayer requests for Tilton. They were just thrown out, but obviously all the money was taken out of them.
During a month and a half period, he and others found 15 tons of these prayer requests in the garbage behind a building involved in Tilton's operation.
It wasn't just money. It was checks, money orders, cash, food stamps, even wedding rings. Anything valuable was removed, and the requested prayers were just tossed in the f***ing trash. What else are you supposed to do? All right? Poor old Tilton's gonna have to build a big old shredder for God for all that stuff. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna send up big ups, okay, to Jesus. I'm gonna read it, send it up for Jesus. I'm getting tired of all this shit, man. What the fuck? In response, Tilton and lawyers claimed the discarded letters had been stolen by enemies of the church and planted in the trash to make them look bad, but the damage was done, and the pristine image that had been curated was shattered instantaneously, because that is a dog shit excuse. And lawsuits were about to keep Tilton's attorneys very busy. Mary Turk is a woman that had avoided seeking medical treatment for colon cancer because of Tilton's preaching.
One of those suing is a Dallas woman said to be dying of cancer. She will claim she was so swayed by Tilton's promises of a miracle, she stopped her medical treatment.
She believed that using her money for treatment would be a breach of faith in God, and instead sent the money to Tilton, who would use her vow of faith for a miracle to cure herself. One lawsuit saw Tilton owing the plaintiff $1.5 million in varying forms of damages as found by a jury, but when Tilton appealed, it was overturned. Less than 2 years later, Tilton's show was canceled after losing 85% of its audience, and donations were likewise plummeting. But Tilton was never formally charged with any form of fraud. How unbelievable is that? I guess it's really hard to prove whether or not prayers were being answered. Nowadays, Robert Tilton is still preaching, but now to a YouTube live stream to 600 subscribers, or to his other YouTube channel with 1,200 subscribers, or to his dog shit Facebook page. Once the illusion shattered, he never recaptured the hearts of the public, and he has quite literally fallen far from grace, though he still believes himself to be a messenger of God. He's schizophrenic. The focus of this video has been on the shadiness and controversy surrounding the finances of megachurches and how many other controversies follow the use of these finances. The truth is that we know very little about how churches use their money, and that's because unlike any other nonprofit in America, churches are explicitly exempt from filing an IRS Form 990. And that's not just the Christian church, that's any religious organization. That includes Scientology, that includes anything, all of them. Form 990s are the annual information return that details revenue, expenses, and compensation of an organization's highest paid employees. The church's exemption from this form stems from the Tax Reform Act of 1969, and while churches are encouraged to make available to the public a complete audited annual report of income and expenditures, they are not required to. The only time a church's finances would be laid bare would be in the event of an audit. But the Tax Reform Act even outlines that churches should be protected from unnecessary audits unless it's determined that the church owes a tax which is unlikely likely to happen because they're tax exempt by default. And an audit would require direct sign off by the IRS Director of Exempt Organizations, and it's so rare and just doesn't happen that the Foundation Group, an organization with experts in nonprofits, tax compliance, and bookkeeping, say you're more likely to see a UFO than a church audit, which UFOs are becoming more and more likely, so maybe, who knows. This means that churches can raise and spend billions of dollars with essentially no government or restrictive oversight unless audited, which doesn't happen. They're not required to disclose total revenue, staff salaries, asset holdings, anything, how donations are spent, or compensation packages, for example, to sexual offender, pedophile, previous spiritual advisors to people like Donald Trump. That guy Morris. So if you look up something like James River Church on ProPublica's Nonprofit Explorer or Lakewood Church on the same site, there's just no information to view. And according to the 2016 Leadership Network Large Church Salary Study, 81% of megachurches keep specific salary information secret. It is limited to board members, subcommittees, or senior staff. Congregants must demand to see figures, and many churches refuse even with these requests, which is alarming since it's estimated that 98% of a church's budget comes from the congregation and half of the budget goes to staff salaries alone. That's on average. The budget differences between large churches and small ones vary wildly, but Tithely broke down the rough averages for where church budgets go. That's 50% to staff salaries, 30% goes to facility costs, and 10% goes towards savings and emergency funds. Then the final 10% goes to missions and charity, which is a minuscule amount for outreach and benevolence. That's the average, which makes it so much more disappointing when it's reported that Lakewood Church only gave 1.3% of its budget to charity in 2017, or is telling a prospective mother of a starving baby that she needs to apply for their benevolence program, something that James River Church also has on their website. Lakewood and these other churches still do a lot of good, and many work with food banks and shelters with church volunteers acting as volunteers at these places too, or providing funding and researchers, but it isn't the churches, it's the people. That's what the whole thing is. The Church of Christ, for Christianity specifically, that's what it's about. It's about the people. That's the congregation. That's at least what I thought, at least my Bible that I've been reading, which is way different than everybody else's. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed, press the like button down below. If I made you mad, go for yourself. If you want to see more behind the scenes content, go to gump.club. We have a Discord server that I'm on a pretty frequent basis where we get video ideas like this. We talk to people. We're building a game. I've got a second channel called Oompa TV where we're uploading mockumentary. It's got like 1 million subs or something like that, 800K. I don't even know. I don't care. I don't look at anything anymore. I just talk about stuff that I enjoy, and I make video games and have fun with my friends, and I really appreciate all of your guys' support. Thank you.